had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire an energy vampire. But also, they're a literal vampire. And suddenly my team is spending all their time sharpening wooden stakes and buying bulk silver and rehearsing ancient chants, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant takes insights from over 1 billion professionals to create a short list of the best fits for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
You know how everything's a subscription now? Music, movies, even socks. I swear if
To continue this ad, please upgrade to Premium Plus Platinum.
What? No, anyway, Blue Apron...
This is a pay-per-listen ad. Please confirm your billing.
Oh, that's annoying. At least with the new Blue Apron, there's no subscription needed. Get delicious meals delivered without the weekly plan.
Wait, no subscription?
Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Welcome to No Question About That. We're talking about Athletic Bilbao and 0, Manchester United 3. I'm Ed with Wayne today. And Wayne, do you know where Athletic Bilbao got their kit from?
Where?
They borrowed a kit from Southampton way, way back in the day. That's why they look like they do. And they played like them today. So,
very good. Well, unfortunately for them, they didn't play like them when they played against United wearing this strip. You remember, infamously, they changed into this strip when they were 3-0 down half-time because they wore the grey shirts. Good tradition of English clubs lending their colours to foreign clubs. Is it Notts County gave Juventus their colours as well?
Yeah.
I don't think Manchester United have done that, apart from the Swaziland Manchester United, of course, as we speak about.
As we talked about last time.
Yeah. So, I don't think it's history of Manchester United giving their colours to anyone, but they earn their stripes tonight. Boom, boom. There you go.
Oh, da-dum. They most certainly did. Wow. United have scored across the last 5 minutes against Lyon and the first 45 against Athletic Bilbao, the first 30 and a bit, right?
Yeah.
6 goals. They managed 6 goals in the last 7 Premier League games. I don't know what it is about Europa, but we love this tournament. Unbelievable stuff. I just was not expecting that. Bilbao had been so good at home this season. Yeah. We saw absolutely nothing from them.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Even when in the first few sort of minutes when they had a bit of pressure, it's not like they really created any good chances. I think Onana made 1 save in that first half.
No,
I think that was it.
A little bit unfair, I think, but they had 4 openings, right? They had the 2 that were blocked by Lindelof, one of those could easily have gone in. Onana's save was decent, and then there was a header, they had a point-blank header that really should have done better. But yeah, those chances came in a very short, condensed period of time, and so I wouldn't say they didn't threaten, but as soon as the first goal, they just lost their heads after the penalty, really, and surprising to see that happen to a team like that at this stage of competition. Although maybe not surprising because of the pressure of what happens when the eye of the needle gets there. Very, very entertaining stuff for us. So because we were on the right end of it, I'm still left here now thinking this is a great European night for Manchester United. Undoubtedly a great result. I definitely don't want to put it down on it. I'm left thinking when I was thinking, we're going to have a conversation about this. How great was it as a performance? I mean, I'm still not quite so sure. There's some little bits that I'll pick apart later. The first of being that we conceded 4 chances in a short space of time before we actually scored. And when you're thinking about the fact that Lyon scored 4 unanswered goals at Old Trafford, I'm fairly confident now. I'm fairly confident with a 3-0 win. But we've seen them create 4 chances in a short space of time, and we've seen Lyon score 4 unanswered goals. There's enough doubt to make it a game next week at least. But
well, true, very true. Yeah,
but fantastic night for United, and the execution of what they had to do such a crucial time. I may, at some point in this podcast, be quite critical of some elements of not critical, doubtful of some elements of the greatness of what we saw. However, the execution in the cool ice moments when we needed it in the first half was unbelievable. To get particularly that third goal, the nice move for that, to get there, even the first goal, to the elements that combined for that, there were some crucial moments in the first half where everything went right, and then at least they protected that in the second half without any doubts creeping in. So it was the best result that you could expect from this United side.
Unbelievable. And yet I left the game going, if only they'd converted a couple more chances. There's the Casimiro header against the post, Mazraoui's fantastic shot against the crossbar. Like, there'd be no nerves next week. As it is, Bilbao score early next week, and we could be nervous. But let's leave that for a little while. You wrote a book on George Best called True Genius. What is the title going to be for your Harry Maguire book? Because he was George Best. Like, he beat that player 3 fucking times and then put in the perfect cross. Unbelievable. Where did that come from? I'm like, Harry, pass it. And you just like, you skinned the guy and then skinned him again and chipped the ball across.
Shades of George Best for sure. Shades of Gary Pallister for Bruce's goal in 93.
Yeah.
A bit of he's exactly the sort of centre-back's cross for the thing. But what it reminded me of immediately was the tweeted about it, because it was the first thing that came to mind. You got a Spanish away game. The big lumbering centre-half goes up with 5 on his back in an area that you don't expect to see him. Harry Maguire crosses the ball, but Bill Foulkes scored the goal in 68 in the semi-final. You just didn't expect to see the player there. And Maguire is kind of like this, who knows how long it goes on from here for his United career, but there is some incredible moments in this run. And look, we've given him stick and we've given him his fair dues for the sort of professionalism that he showed. He could end up, and I know Bruno has been sensational through this run, but at the critical moments, if you think about it, Maguire could end up, let's say everything goes rosy and United win this competition. Maguire's most crucial contribution to the club will probably be these 2 moments, the cross tonight and the goal against Lyon. And now that's not dabbing him with faint praise. That's actually a critical piece in the club's history he would have played. Unbelievable work tonight. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was great. It was so good. And Casimiro with the headed finish, he almost couldn't believe himself when he headed the next one against the post in the second half. But for like this, there's so many players in this United squad who are not fully rounded, right? Almost all of them. Even Bruno, right? His weaknesses, but he plays to his strengths better than anybody in world football, right? And so it's a squad that's not well-rounded and not balanced, and many of the players are not well-rounded and not balanced. But what we saw from almost all of them tonight were their strengths. Yeah. And Casimiro getting in the right post to head one in at the back post, playing to his strengths, right? I was surprised he got that far forward. Honestly, I thought he'd be more conservative than he was tonight. I guess game state played a part later in the game in him sort of playing an all-round game. But so many of them tonight. Yeah, when we saw the team sheet and Victor Lindelof was in it, and I don't want to be mean to Victor, but honestly, my heart sank because I'm like, there's going to be a moment or two tonight. But then I was just texting a friend of mine during the game, and we were like, I was like, I'll be delighted when he leaves. Again, not a personal thing about Victor. I just think he's just made way too many mistakes in 280 odd games for United, and just at that moment, he put in that fantastic block in the first half to stop what could have been a goal for Bilbao. And Harry has his critics, rightly so. I think he's not good in games where he has turned around. He was perfect tonight. Lenny Yoro, mature tonight. Mazraoui bombing up and down that. I didn't think he had that kind of physicality in him, but he was bombing up and down. Not only the shot against the crossbar, but playing intelligent ball, especially in the second half where he was just being so smart about his use of the ball and possession, releasing Garnacho over and over again. You can talk about Garnacho, who I thought was excellent tonight. Yeah. Again, not a well-rounded player. His final pass and his shooting, are there to be improved. He's 20 years old, but he used space really well. He stretched the game. Just so many of them. We got exactly what we needed out of them. Of course, the red card and the penalty helped. And the emotion, Danish talked about it on the preview tactical pod, how emotional Bilbao were in their game against Roma. And they lost their heads for quite a significant period. And it's a surprise because Valverde's a smart coach, but he couldn't get to them. And United turned the screw at the right moment in that first half.
Yeah, and by the time that it got to the second half, everything was kind of done and dusted. It was a very difficult game to manage from both sides, really, for Amorim as well. Yeah, there were elements in that first period before we scored where I had all those concerns. Ugarte was having a stinker until we scored. Like, I think it was actually his misdirected header that went right for Casimiro to score from. And I felt like there was a moment where I thought there that, no, do you know what? I think some of these United players deserve that right, where something just doesn't quite go right, but it ends up going right, because the luck has just deserted a lot of them for more than one season, for some of them. But Ugarte, well, it certainly wasn't his finest moment in the first 20-odd minutes. And what I was thinking before, it's funny you were talking about Lindelof and I'm worried about that. My thought was, I was scribbling notes to myself, as I tend to do, trying to prepare. The thought that came to mind was, can you remember when we played Bayern in 2010 and we conceded a couple of sloppy goals and we lost on away goals? And one of them was Carrick in the first half. He conceded, he was a sloppy pass, and there were all the doubts about him. And I mean, he'd been at the club for a few years then, and there was still that sort of air of doubt over him. And it was kind of like, are we sure about him? And I mean, and look, I don't know where you stand on the Carrick. It's not really a massive debate to be had whether or not you think he's a legend or a great. But I think, if you were to sort of compare him in the vernacular with other legends of other clubs, 4 or 5 league titles, I think, five league titles. So pretty much a legend by anyone's reckoning. So you can't say that he's not. But he wasn't Roy Keane, who had 7. Now, I'm not saying that as a criticism. He was obviously a different kind of player. But the point I'm making is that in 2010, they made that mistake. I think a lot of people are saying, we've seen the back. I'd rather see the back of Carrick and get a proper midfielder in. That's when all that conversation talks about why aren't United buying a midfielder. Yeah. Anyway, the point I'm making with this is that he'd been there for 3 or 4 years and he'd won a few titles, and then people were still having that conversation. The problem that we've had with United in the post-Ferguson era is that how much rope a lot of these players need, because we've seen them time and time again. So the blessing and a curse in a way, like these players get a longer period of chance to impress or depress. The other element of that is a turnover of the squad that United can't do with a financial situation that other clubs can do, leads to these players getting longer opportunities. And now we're hearing that the actual conversation from the top is meant to be that the patience is going to be a lot thinner with players like that. Yeah. So my thought was, through that period, is like, it did go to Carrick, because I'm thinking, yeah, we had 3.5 years of him at that point, and we're kind of like a bit critical. And obviously, he did go on to overcome all that difficult period, and he went on to rightly be known as a club legend. But I was thinking, how much influence is Ugarte having on this game? Because he wasn't doing this was the game that he was bought for, and Casimiro was running it. He was kind of like Ugarte was struggling, so Casimiro was picking up all the slack, particularly in that first 20 minutes. And it's a bit of a tricky one, because you're kind of going like, how much of this is praise for Casimiro and how much of it is criticism for Ugarte? Sure. But he came through it, and then the thing that wanted to drop right for him did drop right for him, and then he was great after that. There's a moment, I'll talk about when he was brought off later on, but in terms of his recovery from that difficult spell, I think he did really, really well. I'm not saying he contributed massively to the running of the game after that, but he did recover really well.
Yeah, it's interesting, the comparison with Carrick. Obviously, very different player. Carrick used to start the season slowly, famously. Ferguson, I think, might have even said he starts his season in November. I don't know what label you want to put on him. He would walk into this side right now, and in fact, almost every Premier League side, a player before his time, Michael Carrick here, he would look very, very modern in today's game. Ugarte, again, I talked about well-rounded players. He is not a well-rounded player. He does some things absolutely brilliantly, which is ground coverage, tackling, interceptions, defensive actions, right? He's off the charts. And the rest of it's quite mediocre. And it's one of those things that we've had on this conversation on this pod previously. If this was a title challenging Manchester United side, or we were looking to get to that point, we might be thinking of upgrading Ugarte, and he gets an awful lot of stick on the internet, right? And some unfair comparisons. Just last night, João Neves, who is an excellent player. But for right now, in games like this, when we need someone to be kicking, blocking, tackling, intercepting, covering the ground, closing off space, he's a perfect player. And he did have a difficult first few minutes, grew into the game. I'm all right with Ugarte right now in this Manchester United side. Let's talk in 2 years' time. Yeah, let's talk in 2 years' time about whether we need a player with a more multifunctional skill set or not. Because in 2 years' time, we're hopefully solidly in the top four and looking at like where we go next to make a title challenge. Yeah. Touch wood, like touching my head here for podcast listeners. Touch wood, we're there. And the Europa League is a really big part of getting to that point. Like the fact that we are 1 foot in the final now and playing, well, maybe a Spurs side who are not very good. I know they keep beating us this season, but they're not very good. The accelerated pathway towards development to getting to where we want is there right in front of us. The prize is there to be seen. Yeah. And it's a really, really big prize in getting back to where we want to be. But that's another question. There's just so much that went right for us tonight. And one of the things that really did go right for us was the penalty call, the hand over Rasmus Højlund, the pullback, the fact that he couldn't get to the ball. Would he have got to the ball anyway? Don't know. Big question. Not sure. Did he go down a little easily? Yeah, probably. Was he right to do that? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think once the referee had been called by the VAR and went over to the screen, from there it was inevitable, the outcome, right? Hand over the shoulder, the pull back. He's right in front of goal. There's no other player between him and the goal. It's going to be a dog-so and a red card and a penalty. No attempt to play the ball, so the triple punishment does come into play. No question about that. It's brought to you in association with NordVPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it secures your connection, protecting your personal information and any online activity, especially in insecure environments like public Wi-Fi. VPN also enables your phone or laptop to switch its virtual location to another country, which is awesome if you're traveling abroad and want to access your favorite content. Long-time listeners will know I spent an awful lot of time on the road for the last 20 years in different places, from Tokyo to Old Trafford and New York to the Northern Quarter. The VPN has been extremely useful in watching the games and recording in places where it's hard to do so. True story, I once racked up a huge phone bill while watching a United game when I was traveling in Shanghai. It's on my work phone. I blamed it on calls. It wasn't really, but I couldn't have watched the United game without the VPN. If you want to try NordVPN for yourself, we have a special offer at nordvpn.com/NQAT. You'll get 4 extra months on a 2-year plan. It's the best discount available, about the price of a coffee per month. There's no risk with a 30-day money-back guarantee, and the link is also in the podcast show notes. Many thanks.
Yeah, I was surprised they gave it because at the moment there was a foul maybe 2 minutes before, which was a definite yellow from a Bilbao player. And I thought the referee bottled it, massively bottled it. And I was worried. It's funny you mentioned, like whether or not Højlund would have got there. I was texting with, we'll save his name, a former United player who actually said, thank God it was Højlund, because obviously he was never going to get there. And that, in a way, helped United out with that. I thought the sending off was a bit... I know it's there in the rule, but I think like there's kind of a discrepancy on like natural challenges in the box. Did I have a goal scoring opportunity? Yes. It just seemed like an unnecessarily harsh compounding of it. Not that I'm complaining, because United benefited massively from it. I think what happened in the moment after that was that everything became a massive decision for... maybe for the rest of the game, but certainly the sort of 10, 15 minutes after that, there was a lot of lot of sort of contention over everything. So in terms of, I felt like, yeah, all right, maybe very soft. But I think in that moment in time where everyone was kind of losing their heads, what United needed was someone to shine through. And Bruno, as he has done so often this season, but particularly earlier on, I'm talking about Harry Maguire's contribution and how crucial that might end up being. Bruno speaks for itself anyway, but that 10-minute spell where he just took complete control of the game and the tie was unbelievable, because it still took nerves to stand up and take the penalty, which is one thing, and then to do so well and score the third goal as well. It was just a moment where there was an opportunity there, and too often, even the great United sides are guilty of this, where you'd see a game there for the taking, they just won't do it, they just won't take it. But they did tonight, and that was down to Bruno. Bruno sort of keeping that coolness around him, like
maturity of performance.
Of all players, Bruno's because he could have easily got involved in all that stuff, but he sort of stood backwards from it and saw something opening up and said, like, well, we can just keep cool and play against this, because really, until he got to half time, that score, it could have been anything from them, because they'd lost their heads so much. So Bruno was just phenomenal in that 20 minutes period. And yeah, I don't know, what did you make of the penalty, to be fair? Because I'm thinking about it now, and if it's against us, I can't really complain, and I can't really complain about the red card. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just being a bit generous because the game's a bit more comfortable now, but I don't know.
Vivian has had an excellent season, right? He's a very good defender. He's an excellent season. He was stupid in that moment, 6 yards out, to put a hand on the player's shoulder as the ball's coming across. It's a moment. It's a moment of desperation, and he's like, I was going to say the ultimate punishment, not quite that, but not bringing out the gallows now, are we? But in footballing terms, the ultimate punishment, a goal against and a red card, and it's completely changed the nature of the tie as a result. And I think it's his stupidity. Yeah, sure, you could go, it's a bit soft, but it's hard to say it's not a foul. And if you're going to say it's a foul, and you're going to say the ball was in touching distance, right? Because it has to be. Then there's no choice, right? And it's Vivian's fault. And would we have been mad as United players, fans, if it gone in the other way around? Yeah, probably. But it'd be hard to go, you know what, how could the ref not give it? No, maybe if it was Michael Oliver, he'd have found a reason not to give it to United, of course, because he's an absolute dick. And by the way, just a moment for the referee. He kept things pretty calm tonight. Like, after that penalty instant, the Athletic players were surrounding him. There were every single moment, the fans were screaming, and he was pretty cool. I thought he managed the atmosphere pretty well. I mean, of course, I'm going to say that because things went our way tonight. Yeah. But you asked, I thought the penalty? I thought it was a penalty. And if it's a penalty, it's a red card.
What about the one in the second half? Do you think he bottled that one?
Oh, and Garnacho. Yeah. He's got two hands in the back. Yeah, he did. And it's really hard for a referee to go, we're going to give two 50-50 penalties the way of the opposition team. Oh, bloody hell. They'd have started a revolution. It'd have been the second Spanish Civil War, wouldn't it? Except they'd been fighting United, so not a civil war. But he
wouldn't have got out of there.
I think
in trouble.
Yeah, no chance. Yeah, but Bilbao lost their heads, and it's that emotional thing. They like, for the rest of that first half, they were entirely focused on the ref, on United, on the injustice that they felt. I don't know whether it contributed to the third goal or not, but they weren't focused. They picked up a couple of other yellow cards during that time as well. They were very physical. So let's talk about the third goal, because we talked about Ugarte having a rough 15 minutes or so.
Well, yeah, it was brilliant for that.
That's a pretty good bloody assist, wasn't it? Yeah. Like, to have the vision to do that, the flick, perfect, and the cool finish from Bruno. You wouldn't expect anything else from Bruno.
No. Oh, just magnificent. All the football there, like you said, and the coolness because they were getting tight, and they were doing the kind of tackles that everything could have been a yellow at that point if the referee chose it to be. Something you didn't think Ugarte had in his locker. Something he knew Bruno definitely had in his. something really, it was at that moment when United got that third goal, and I was thinking then, this is good. Like, that period was good, but I think it was led by Bruno. And this is what led me to sort of like maybe what feels like it's going to be a criticism of the second half, because we were so good in that moment, right? And then you start thinking, where could this go? And how good is this as a performance? Or how much is it down to them losing their heads temporarily? Nothing really matters in the grand scheme of things, but I think when you look back over the significance of what it is as a building block, which is one of the reasons for us doing this podcast. So, because obviously that's one of the things that we then look at is like, how much of this can we build upon? Which is, I think the disappointing, I might as well get to it, which is not really disappointing. It sounds like it's criticism, but it is based in the perspective of what we saw tonight, which is all very good and very glowing. So it's not a criticism as such. It's very, very difficult game to manage for both managers, like I said earlier. From half time, it's like, what do we do from this position? 10 men, you could have all the ball relay against a team who, like Bilbao, were renowned for being, I can remember Bielsa's Bilbao playing us off the park twice, so they've always been renowned for being a good footballing side. So how are they going to get on without the ball? And like I said, they were trying to get the ball to the Williams. And then, to be fair, they had a fair amount of the ball, but they had too many men to crowd them out. Not always safety in numbers with United. Now, the issue that I had, or the concern that I had, and to be fair, Amorim seemed to address it very, very early on, is this United side can have too much of the ball, especially when it's just like, when you're 3-0 up in an away game in European football, which is the pinnacle of what every team wants, right? 3-0, the golden score, which you want away from home, is you're just going to keep the ball and run the clock down. Now, this United team are not good in that position. And what I mean by that is, you give them the ball, anything could happen. They are their own worst enemies. They were against Lyon.
Yeah.
And so I think what was happening with Ugarte and Maguire in particular, not that they did anything bad, but the brain switches off. They'll get the ball. They're kind of aimless with it anyway. And I think Amorim noticed that. So he was like, all right, I'll bring them off straight away. And I think he was brilliant at doing that, because it completely transformed the impetus of what we were trying to do again. Now, we weren't great after that, but we did create a few more chances, and the possession became there was a lot more intent in what we were trying to do. Yeah, so like before, it was 15 minutes. And I'm not really having a go, because just those kind of players, really, Maguire and Ugarte, maybe they're not cut out for that kind of moment. The qualities don't lend themselves to those kind of moments. Like you're saying earlier, they're not. We talk about the perfectly rounded individuals, like Carrick could switch his game at that moment in time, and he'd know what to do in that moment in time. Whereas Ugarte and Maguire, it's kind of like, well, this is what we normally do, and now we've got too much of the ball. We don't know what to do with it. Amorim noticed that. He cut that out, and we were unlucky from that point not to get the fourth, because I think all the intent in what we tried to do after that was to get the fourth goal. And so I'm thinking that was a good performance, and it was good of the manager, and that's something to build upon, because he's noticed something. He's noticed a weakness even when we were a strength, and he didn't wait for that weakness to cost us, which I think is a critical thing to look at, which is probably, it sounds stupid out of a 3-0 win away in Europe in a semi-final, but those substitutions were probably the most critical thing in the advancement. That I thought, all right, I can see something.
He wanted to manage the game, didn't he? He wanted to manage the game state. I thought Bruno was critical in that. He slowed everything down at the right moments. Mason Mount was physical, got himself a booking for kicking someone. I think part of the reason Harry was taken off, because he had that one moment was Maddie, didn't he, where they tussled for the ball. It was a 50-50. I don't see that as a foul. It definitely wouldn't have been a red card because of so far out. It was so far out if it had been a foul, but VAR and ref didn't see it that way, but he was just making sure that they didn't try and isolate Maguire in those situations. Good game management from Amorim, good game management from the players. We don't say this often. I don't think it's a particularly intelligent group of players, football intelligence. A lot of them are very rash with the ball, especially, but not tonight. And they played the game state well. They could have got that second goal. Shot against the crossbar, shot against the post. There were a couple that flashed across the box. They did work those wide areas really well with Garnacho pushing down the right, and then Ahmad for the last couple of minutes when he came on, and Dorgu down the left, they managed those moments well. They kept the ball really well. 73% possession tonight. And of course, that's helped by having 10 men, clearly, obviously. But they did those things. And is it something you can build on, you asked? I think so. But there are still going to be 8 or 9 players from this group of players that leave this summer. Right? And some of them play tonight. Lindelof is going to leave this summer. Casimiro may well leave this summer. Eriksen, who wasn't on the pitch tonight, will definitely leave this summer. Bayindir, who wasn't on the pitch tonight, will leave this summer. Onana, who was on the pitch and didn't get the opportunity to screw his team over, may leave this summer. I mean, I'd certainly heard from people that they are looking for another number one. Rasmus Højlund, who barely touched the ball, but did some good things actually when he got it. In those situations where we know he screws up when the ball goes into him and it doesn't stick, he did all right in those moments tonight. Yeah, he may well leave this summer. So, yeah, we can build on stuff, and the confidence and the money that would come from winning this tournament and the status of being in the Champions League are very important. But Amorim will see in some of his players something he might not have seen in other games where it was wild and chaotic, or they just didn't seem to be able to put it together at the right moments. They've gone to a very, very good Bilbao side at a stadium in which they don't lose, with a really hot atmosphere, and they won comfortably. And then when they were comfortably ahead, they didn't really give the opposition a sniff.
Yeah.
Are we going to repeat this for every game from now on until the end of the season? Probably not. But tonight was almost perfect.
I think that's where I sit on it, where it sounds like I'm being critical. I think that it's like when you've got a man sent off, you're already 3-0 up, and we were effective at creating the openings. I just think maybe it's out of like wanting something better for this squad of players as well, like, because you look at like this generation and what they will be remembered for, apart from some horrific results. I'm talking about the good of what they'll be remembered for, and you'll think they won a couple of domestic trophies, really good performance against City in the final, but really one of rearguard. They deserve to win, and probably deserve to win by more in the FA Cup final. But it was still kind of like we're playing with 4 midfielders, 4 central midfielders. We weren't playing with an attacker. It was a system designed to frustrate. It wasn't an imposition. We weren't saying we're taking the game to you, because that would be suicidal, because we don't have those kind of players. So now you move on to this season, slightly shifted. Obviously, Amorim's first iteration of United, what will they be remembered for? Obviously, Leon is now a massive, massive indication of. I mean, you can try and kind of pull some character from that and say that this is something that will be remembered for. That's only if United find themselves in those similar situations in future, and they can instigate that kind of character as well. I think what it was tonight, it was so good. It was so professional. It was so polished in a way that we don't expect from this United side. So it did all the things that we don't expect to do very well. And I just think you were so close to something, even notwithstanding it was 10 men that they were playing against. Imagine like a couple more goals that they could have scored there. That would have gone down as we're talking about one of we're fine margins away. This isn't critical, actually. It's more of like an empathetic thing for this group of players that I wish that they'd had it. Because if they'd had that extra couple of goals, you are then talking about one of the greatest United away nights in Europe. And we're just a little margin away from that. I'm not complaining because he did the job. Completely did the job. I just feel like, do you know what? The opportunity missed for this group of players to kind of go like, do you know what? This was one night where
I know what you mean.
It still is. Yeah. He still is. I'm not complaining.
It's still a great night, and it could have been even greater, and we could have had zero nerves if there'd been a couple more tonight. We'd had zero nerves next week. It'd be a big party. We can celebrate and all of that kind of stuff. As it is, he's going to have to pick full side, and we're just going to make sure we're professional next week. But I know what you mean. We're margins away from one of United's greatest ever victories in Europe, and that sounds hyperbolic, but it'd have been just it just been true, right? Like how often has United won 5-0 away from home in Europe?
Yeah.
As it is, this is a really good Bilbao side. I say it again. I think if you'd polled United fans beforehand, 75% of United fans, and maybe this is the mind state of United fans, would probably said we're about to lose. I thought this would be United's most difficult game of the season, like even in the context of going to Anfield or City or Arsenal or whatever. And it just wasn't. Like, they played really well, and helped, of course, by the red card, but just almost no criticisms. Just that, could have been 5 and wasn't quite. I haven't seen any of the quotes from Ruben Amorim after the game, but I don't see him as a manager who's going to go overboard with this, right? No. He's going to praise his team. I'm sure he has, but I don't think he's going to go, I made it. There's no problems at this club anymore. He's pretty clear of mind, I think.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting what he does against Brentford at the weekend, of course, which is pretty inconsequential in terms of the whole season. But I assume he'll just look at the load of all the players and rest quite a few players again. It won't be a full second string side with a bunch of children in it, I'm sure. But he will. I'm sure he'll change things around and be really professional for next Thursday night. Take no chances. Like, anyone who needs to be fresh, they don't need to play at the weekend. Leave it a week. We can then worry about the final later. Yeah. But you know what, Wayne? We've spent 99% of this season bitching and moaning and complaining, and rightly so, because it's been utter shit. And it was last season, apart from obviously the final against City. And it's just been dreadful most of this season. And it wasn't tonight. And I'm gobsmacked because I just did not expect it.
Yeah, if you got into this blinding, like I said, like came onto this podcast and you said, do you know what, I'm not going to watch the game, but I'll go with Wayne's conversation points from it. And then I told you the score was 3-0. You would have had a hard time believing that it was United on the right side of that scoreline. It's just part of the course of United this season. You could have easily have believed that United would have lost 3-0 and not even blinked with that. But yeah, for something to build upon, is that kind of a double-edged sword, like I said. I've said it before with the good results that we've had this season. Like the note of caution that I've always had has been how many of these players will be here next season. But there were moments tonight where the players who will be around, or you hope will be around, there was something to be shown in there. Like Dogu had a couple of good openings. Garnacho, like I said, it looks like he looks like he's getting into the groove of what the manager's asking for. Like, there's still,
very much think so. Yeah,
his flaws are still there, but he was probably the biggest conversation point that we had when Amorim took over was that inside 10 and how he's going to play in that role because of his unique skill set, which it doesn't seem to suit it. But he has applied himself at that, and we said this early on. He did appear to be applying himself, and there are moments where he's having joy from that, and they seem to be better when they come from the right, even though he prefers playing from the left. All his better moments not his better moments like flash moments, they're probably all from the left, but the better functional moments all seem to be from the right. And that was again proven tonight. So there are little steps there that are moving forward. So, I'm not definitely going to be complaining about it.
On Garnacho, the rumour mill very much still has him as one that either United are trying to sell or would be willing to sell, and Garnacho's team, as we've seen in the last couple of summers, willing to move him on. I don't know whether he's being badly advised or Ruben Amorim's had a word with him to say, maybe not, although he picks him every week, right? Yeah. I would be disappointed because it's not that I can say, this guy's definitely going to be the best thing ever, right? I think he trends to his age, which is 20. And although he's had quite a bit of football over the last 2-3 years, he is still just 20. And he makes some decisions that look like a 20-year-old playing. And we just hope that with a good coach and a good environment and with good players and better players alongside him next season, we hope that he can just take it on. He's trending about 3 goals below his XG, right? So his expected goals and assists per 90 should be about the same as Nico Williams, right? He's trending just a tad below that. Yeah. And this is his rash finishing. Like, he 34% of his shots are on target, but it's really it's about 18% of his shots are scoring goals. It just needs to tick up a little bit for him to be in that category of very, very good player. It needs to tick up quite a lot more for him to be in the category of elite, amongst the best in the world. But we don't need to be there. It's not binary. And I find the social media conversation always are you the best player in the world? If not, you're absolute trash and bin them. It's nonsense. That's not how football is. And so it's a very long way of saying, and I've said it before on the pod, I would be very disappointed if they moved him on because there's more to come from this player, right? Disappointed because I think we can improve him. I think without loads of evidence that Ruben Amorim is probably a good coach and will help him. And that if you just want to be cold about it, we'll get more money for him when he improves than right now. Yeah. Like Nico Williams will go for 60 million euros this summer. He's going to leave. He's got a release clause. There's 50 clubs across Europe that would be happy to pay that money for him. And in a year's time, Garnacho should be higher than that in terms of value, right? So I'd be disappointed, but it's one of the reasons why, amongst many, that Europa League is so important. We don't win this tournament, the chances of United selling him pick up really high, like really high. I'd say 90+% if we don't win the Europa League, just because they have to sell to buy, right? There's just, and they're in a really tight bind with both Anthony, Rashford and Sancho in terms of the negotiation. And if United are desperate, other clubs are going to rake us over the coals. And the next best asset is Garnacho. As I just said, I'd rather not. And Kobe Mainoo. The fucking sky falls in before we sell Kobe Mainoo. Right. So anyway, he had a good night. Night.
But I'm with you as well, like changes for Brentford. Like I'm not usually a big advocate for stuff like that, but because I tend to adhere to the old-fashioned idea that consistency breeds consistency. And I think there was value in, and not insignificant value as well, in the equaliser coming in late at the weekend against Bournemouth, because if you lose that game and it's a flat note coming into this one on, I'm not saying everything changes, of course not, but I think it all plays a part. So you have a little bit of consistency in the selection for the weekend. Obviously, you're probably going to see 4 or 5 changes anyway, but I don't think they're necessarily bad changes at this moment in time, because maybe Obi will play up front, he'll get a start up front. Maybe
I'd like to see it.
Mainoo will get a start as well. Shaw might start again.
Mainoo, Mount. Shaw is an interesting one because Amorim said before the game they're managing his minutes, which is right. So if he does start the weekend, he won't play the full game, 100%. No. Mount hasn't started a game yet since he came back. It's about time, I think. So I know it's unthinkable, but maybe we rest Bruno again. So
all of the, well, certainly Bruno should be rested. Even then, you say like 4 or 5 players, and then keep that momentum going. But I mean, what the result does is it changes that. Earlier when I'm saying consistency breeds consistency, it changes that mindset for the last few games of the season, because everyone will be looking at the final now. Rightly so, because that's what the scale of the victory, that you work hard for that reward, is for people to have, to be able to relax. It has been a terrible season. There's no pressure, really, apart from United to get more used to the system and to relax a little bit more. And that could have all kinds of benefits, even from these games that don't mean anything, for these players who are now playing for a place in the European final for Manchester United, because there's still some places up for grabs in there. It's funny, when we talk about momentum, I'm a big advocate for that. I talked so often about that. And Spurs have got one foot in the final as well. And you said Spurs are beating us so often this season. And do you know what?
I wouldn't bet on it just yet with Spurs. They have to go away to Norway, plastic pitch. Bodo Glimt have got a good record there. We'll see.
I said 1 foot. So
1 foot, half a foot.
On the assumption that Spurs don't Spurs it and they go to the final, then there is at least apart from the recent record that they've got that's good against us, there's the other omen, which is the 94 and 96 cup finals, where we played Chelsea beat us twice in the league and we beat them in final, and then 96 Liverpool didn't beat us twice. They drew at Old Trafford. Robbie Fowler just scored 50 goals against us, and then didn't do anything in the final. So there is at least that omen as well. I think when all things change, things are there to be changed for a reason. But I think that United's players for the rest of this season, considering that we all can't wait to see the back of it, I don't think the players should be excused from that either. Do you know? And I mean that in a good way. I mean, like, look, it's been bloody awful. Like you said, the discourse online has been disgusting and disgraceful at sometimes. It's been too much. And I think if there's, a small handful of games for players to enjoy themselves, just four games left in the league, then it's a good amount for players to do that. I mean, hopefully that they can do that, and the places are there to be won in a, like the intensity sometimes of the occasion can be like, players trying to nail down that position. Like, for example, there might be a position opened up at centre back with Mazraoui probably going to be moving to the right, even if Ahmad's going to play from the right. There's definitely a position in there that's opened up, or two. Definitely that centre forward position isn't nailed on to be Højlund's as well. So some interesting things to be learned in that period of time. And I don't think you can discount that from this run of fixtures. There's still something, even though there's nothing to be played for, there's always something to be played for.
Well, there is something to be played for because it's confidence going into the final. Let's make the assumption. I don't want to jinx it, but let's risk that by saying they're playing for a place in the final. Players are coming back. De Ligt came back tonight. He's going towards fitness. Obviously, Shaw is back, so there's a lot of competition in the centre-back places. Ahmad, a few minutes tonight. They will manage his minutes to get him ready for the final because he's a real weapon. Like, whether he plays at right wing-back or in the right-sided forward position doesn't really matter. I think he's dangerous in either place. So we're getting players back fit. There's competition for places. It'll make a big difference who we play, of course. Spurs, of course, there's a lot of problems, but the way they play, if it's them in the final, so high up the pitch that quick players up front will make a really big difference. Bodo Glimt, a bit different. You'd imagine United have although they play nice football, Bodo, but we're a better side than them, and we should have beaten them at Old Trafford when it was draw, right? Yeah. And so, we've got tough games, but games in which players have to get back to fitness and players are playing for more competition.
We did beat Bodo.
We did.
Yeah. It was Amarim's first home game,
So we were away at Brentford, then the Athletic game, home to West Ham. Okay, that should be a gimme. Away to Chelsea. Maresca is under pressure, but looks like they're going to be in the conference. They're very close to the Conference League final. And then home to Aston Villa on the last day of the season. Tough one. They could be going for a European place. So there's plenty of tough fixtures in there, but also competitive enough that those players who are really, really playing for a place and will have to compete, and those players who need their minutes will get enough minutes. And touch wood, no big injuries before the end of the season. Yeah. Managed load. They'll look at all the players in the red zone and just don't give them too much. We should be in good shape for this final. I'm sorry, I've triple jinxed it there by being positive, and I shouldn't do that.
No, but you're absolutely right to be, I think, because imagine that there's no final. If we lost 3-0 tonight, and then what are those players playing for? Because a lot of them already know that their future's already up. So even the ones whose futures are probably up in the summer will still want to go out in a European final. Do you know what I mean? Especially considering the run. Yeah. The run now has taken on significance. First of all, for what it means to the club. For every trophy means something. Like if it's against your local rivals. But this one has got such significance that the winning Europa League in 2017, nice though it was, and significant though it was as well because it came straight after the bombing. So I'm not discounting its significance there to Manchester. But to Manchester United Football Club, the significance of this final in particular is so great that it does add an extra layer of significance for these players, right? So if they're in a team that wins this and gets United back into the Champions League, even if they're not part of what follows, I think that's a noble thing to... I'm talking particularly...
Yeah.
If you want to personify this, Harry Maguire. A player like Harry Maguire who has gone, all right, I might not be part of what comes next, but the part of what is here and now. The thing that I'm contributing to will not be criticised for lack of care. And I think we had this conversation at the end of Solskjaer and certainly in the Rangnick era where people were like, is this side even likeable? Can we say that they don't care? And it felt like we could say that. Under Ten Hag, we actually referenced that on this podcast multiple times where we said, no, it actually does look like they care. And you can't say that they don't. Saying that they're not good enough is a different thing, and that's not a crime. So to now get to the stage where they could be involved in a critical moment in United history for all the right reasons, and to know what they put in tonight to make that happen, it could still be one of the most... It was a nice thing for me to start off saying that they're doubtful things now, but we're only an hour from the result. You know what I mean? A lot of time so late thinking this could end up being one of the most significant results in United history, especially modern history.
Yep.
And for that, then you've got to give all the credit to the players who've had an immense amount of shit all season. I'm not immune from having given them some of that crap. They stood up tonight and pulled out an incredible result, and you should be said an incredible performance to go alongside it.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Have you booked your tickets for Bilbao yet?
No, but I was thinking, like there's going to be a few of them. There would have been a few of them in the away end with the phones out, like, when am I coming back?
I'm sure, yeah.
If they hadn't already done that. They're well-thinking Reds who are already well ahead of that. Yeah.
Indeed, getting a ticket is going to be hard, obviously. I mean, San Mames, it's a decent-sized stadium, but it's a Europa League final-sized stadium.
Yeah.
And so there'll be 20,000 tickets for United fans. If it's Spurs, they're obviously going to bring a big crowd. If it's Bodo Glimt, it might be a bit different. Because there's only 50,000 people in Bodo. They're very much a one-club town because the nearest town is a 10-hour drive away. I think this is up in the Arctic Circle, basically. Amazing story, really.
Yeah.
All right, but that'll be changed for the weekend. I don't think we need to preview that game. Amorim will make some changes. They'll rest a few. A few players need minutes. It's Brentford. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. If you are listening to this, you can see our faces on YouTube if you like that kind of thing. Another plug for the Lost Tapes. We finished season 1, 7 episodes with 58 to 68 mini doc. Some great comments from all the from 70s, 80s, and 90s of many of the players who were involved in that period. We are going to come back with season 2 at some point in some format, and we'll work that out soon enough. But thanks everyone for listening. Leave us a rating and a review in your podcast app of choice. Hit the subscribe button as well. It really does help. Bye now.